All right, welcome back. We've got submission 3 back from CGC yesterday, and all 25 slabs look nice and fresh. We've got the actual slabs here today instead of a retrospective, so I'm looking forward to running through them. Thanks for watching so far. It's been really interesting. So as usual, what I'll do is I'll go through every slab. I'll tell you how much it cost, any work I did that was notable, what my expectations were for the actual result, and then we'll do the unveiling. Hopefully it's all coming through pretty clearly, and let's get started. So first off the chopping block was Amazing Spider-Man 205. I got this one from an online seller. It had some negligible ticks, had a bit of a bend in it, gave it a light clean, it seemed okay. I didn't think it was going to make a 9.8 simply because it just wasn't quite perfect. So 9.6 is what I was expecting. It cost me $13, and CGC came back with, I forgot I've got to unveil them now, 9.6. So they've quoted spine stress lines, which I think is right. So with the first one out, we're on par with expectations at this point. So let's put this one away and get the next one up, which is Amazing Spider-Man 212. It will be alphabetical, so we'll be finishing with W. So this one from the same online seller cost me $31. It was filthy, absolutely filthy. You know, it was just the back and the front. It just lots of dirt. Gave it a good clean. I thought it had a few ticks, which were light, but the cover miswrap, which you can see, worked in my favor because the white comes around to the front, so it makes it a lot more favorable for dealing with those ticks on the white. It did have a small stain, yellow stain on the back cover, which I removed and lightened with some heat overlay press, and I thought it looked much better. My expectations were somewhere in the 9.6 to 9.8 range. Obviously I was hoping for a 9.8, always hoping for a 9.8. CGC came back and they said, I need to find a better way to do this, 9.6. So well within the expected range, so that's good. I think it's the right grade for the right book. It's a nice book, and most of these books have already actually been sold. Moving on, make sure that me go there. All right, next up we have an iconic Action Comics #1 homage, Amazing Spider-Man 306 newsstand edition. I actually overpaid for this one. It cost me $52, and you know, it had a few ticks down the spine. It was going to be too heavy, I thought, even for a 9.6, and it had a massive foxing on the back cover. I remember this one. It was on the interior as well, on the interior of the front. I cleaned it all up. Thought it was pretty good. The pages inside were still quite off-white, I thought, and we'll look at what color pages they gave it. I thought it would be in the 9 to 9.2 range simply because of the heavy ticks, possibly if I left some of the foxing. And I'll put a picture up of the actual back cover. I believe I've got one for this one, for the before and after. It was a lot of foxing. So I sent down CGC with high hopes to come into the near mint range, and CGC had a look and they said 9.4. So a little bit higher than I was expecting, which I was really happy about. It's a great book, lovely cover. This one got snapped up really quickly. So yeah, it's a good outcome. So moving on to the next slab. I have Amazing Spider-Man 311 newsstand edition, and this is the McFarlane cover. So this one was, okay, I paid a fair bit for this one. I paid about $100. It was a CGC 9.6 slab before. I thought it looked great. There might have been a tiny staple tick. I think top, that was it. It was my imagination, I think. I basically just gave it a nice clean, just to be sure, a little tidy up, checked it, pressed it, submitted to CGC. I was honestly hoping for a 9.8, but it was a 9.6. CGC came back with 9.6. So that's a little bit disappointing. I still think the comic is really in great condition. And it would have been a worthy 9.8. I can't even see the ticks they're talking about here, but a great McFarlane cover with Mysterio, one of my favorite Spider-Man characters. Yeah, so that one is also sold, which is looking really good. And next up we have a book that should be very familiar, the very one we just looked at, but it's a direct edition this time. So this one I bought from the comic market, same one I got the ASM 298 from, and in previous submission, go back and have a look at that if you haven't. Cost me only $15. It had a little piece hanging on the cover on the bottom right near the spine, and I thought it might be bindery. I wasn't sure. I'll put a picture up of the back of this. Actually, I think I've got it here. I can just turn it around. So yeah, I see it. So I'm not sure if you can see in that corner, there's a little bindery issue there. Oh, I have given away the grade. I'll be sure to blur that out. But yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought it was a great copy otherwise. And this is the one I thought might be coming back less than 9.8 because of that issue. CGC came back and they said 9.8. So that's a great outcome on a great slab. Yeah, not much more to say about that. So it must have been graded bindery, or at least negligible enough for it not to be counted, and the rest of the book was pretty good. Good outcome. All right. Next slab we have another Amazing Spider-Man, 312. And this is another McFarlane classic with the Green Goblin and the Hobgoblin, obviously. And it cost me $20 from an eBay seller, and I thought it had negligible ticks and should get close to a 9.8. I cleaned up a little bit of foxing on the back cover, in and on the back cover. And there were a few issues where I spotted some color rub, and I looked at other copies of 9.8s, which is what I like to do to make sure nothing's, or what is actually a standard manufacturing issue. And yeah, I thought it would come back as a 9.8. Certainly had the potential. Yeah, sent to CGC and they said 9.6. So that's, that's a little bit disappointing. I think the grading notes on this one were noteworthy. Yeah, that's right. So they've said there's a bend on the right top of the back cover. So I've left a bend on this one, which is disappointing to be 3 submissions in and still be leaving bends. And it really held back the grade from a 9.8 because I was right, the comic was otherwise in great shape. Yeah, I'm not going to resubmit. I don't think it's quite at that level where it needs it in terms of pricing. And again, this one's already been sold anyway, so that's fine. Moving on, away from Spider-Man, we're now on to Daredevil 227. This is the issue where the Kingpin learns Daredevil's identity. I want to see where I got this from. So I got this from another eBay seller. I thought it looked clean and it had a little bit of miswrap. And I'm curious to see if it would get graded or assessed, because as you can see, it's fallen back. It's the 75s being sort of hidden around on the back cover, but I wanted to see what was going to happen. There were a couple of notable ticks on it though. Otherwise a nice clean copy, sharp corners. It cost me $27 and I thought it would come somewhere in the 9.4 to 9.6 range because of those ticks. CGC came back with a 9.6, so it was definitely within the range. And let me just check the grading notes. Yeah, spine stress lines. So a good outcome on a nice book. Bit disappointed to get the 9.8, but I don't think it was ever really in play. Maybe 5% chance. A fair grade for a great book. All right, moving on. I think I've already had this a couple of times on my show. It'll probably feature again and again. I love this cover, an iconic John Byrne Doom cover, Fantastic Four 258. Every time I come across this cover in good condition, I like to pick it up. Only cost me $12, again from that comic market I went to. I cleaned up a small stain on the back and it had a little bit of foxing, as a lot of these comics seem to, it seems. It cleaned up really well. I think the spine ticks were going to limit it to a 9.6. but at $12, more than happy to send it through. Sent it to CGC, and they came back with a 9.6. So that's, you know, pretty much bang on outcome, I think. And the greater notes state spine stress line. So that's the only noteworthy issue on a great book and a great cover. Moving on. So next up is Incredible Hulk versus Venom #1. It's a cardstock cover, and this is an important story because there are a few books over the next few submissions, including another one in this one, where I've got a cardstock cover. They're just harder to work. You can't really do very much with them. You've got to saturate them a lot more, try and get the ticks out. You can't really fix anything otherwise. I certainly can't, and I find them very frustrating. However, this book came back, was really great. I thought it was an immaculate copy. I gave it a press and didn't do much else to it and packed it. I thought it would get a 9.8. And I said to myself, I bet it gets a 9.6 because I was confident it was a beautiful, immaculate copy. So it only cost me $14 from an online seller. Actually, I think this was a Whatnot seller. Yeah, and CGC came back and they said 9.6. So greater notes are spine stress lines. So yeah, I don't know. Again, this book's also sold. I don't know what spine stress lines they're seeing there. It looks pretty great to me. Maybe on the back, I should have maybe given another press, but otherwise, I think it's a lovely book. Just hard to work on those. Next one is an amazing cover. I love this book. I saw this at the comic market. I remember it. I was like, it looked great. I had a look over it. It only cost me $9 and it looked pretty good. It had some scuffing on the front cover, but the bottom left one, I had a look at again at other copies online and it looks like they are standard. So I wasn't too concerned. I really thought it would be a 9.8 candidate, contender. I pressed it a few times, really let it rest, and then came back out, and still I wasn't quite happy. So I worked on this one a little bit to try and really give it some extra opportunity to make a 9.8. Sent to CGC hopeful of a 9.8, and they came back with 9.8. So yeah, this is a great book to have in 9.8. I love the cover. Nightcrawler is a great character. Again, I put it online. It got snapped up at the price I put it on. I almost kept it. I almost put this in the PC. I'm still not sure whether I maybe should have kept it. So that's good. Great book. Nice to get a 9.8. So next book, Spawn #1, direct edition. I picked up a couple of copies of these from that Whatnot seller. It was actually a coin shop that just came across a bunch of comics, and they then put them online. They're running low value. They didn't know what they were, but they had plenty of people there that did. I paid $44 for it, so it's not like I got it for $3. I thought it looked pretty good. It had a small tick, otherwise it was a fairly great copy. Worked it over, pressed it, did all my magic on it. Hopeful of a 9.8. It looked great. CGC had a look at it and they said 9.8. So always good to get a 9.8 copy of Spawn #1. And yeah, this one got snapped up as well. There's so many copies out there, but people just love them, as do I, and my copies upstairs in my personal collection. Last book for the 12 books for first part of the video is another copy of Spawn #1. As I said, I picked up a couple of copies. This one was also $44, so I paid the same. I thought it looked good. It had a finger bend that was a real pain to remove from the back cover. It took multiple presses. It's just one of those stubborn things. Yeah, quite challenging. But in the end, you know, I persisted. I think it did well. And again, I thought it had a great chance at a 9.8. Sent 9 to CGC with the other 9.8, and they came back with another 9.8. So really great to get a couple of 9.8s there. Yeah, so that concludes the first 12 books of this submission. There'll be another 13. One of them is a PC book. So lots of Spawn and X-Men to come. I'll be releasing that a week after this one. I'm about to start recording it, so yeah, like, subscribe, do all those good things to be notified when the next one's in. But so far the submission's been going really well. Yeah, so other than the Amazing Spider-Man 311 newsstand, which I think, you know, would have been quite valuable in 9.8, so I was a bit disappointing. It's been a good submission. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you soon.